Close your eyes for a moment and picture the cool shade of a temple corridor at Angkor, sunlit bas-reliefs spilling stories across the stone. You notice processions and gods, but glance lower, and there's a woman arranging flowers, another braiding a banner. Those small gestures kept ritual life honest and ongoing.
Listen closely. The layers matter. When we read inscriptions or inspect reliefs, women's names and acts appear in places you might not expect. Donors carved into stelae, patrons credited in land grants, and scenes in the outer gallery at Angkor Wat that show women managing goods and offerings. These traces change how we see power.
Right.
I'm Samnang, and with me is Rachana. Today, we'll follow those smaller hands, patrons, weavers, midwives, and show how their acts shaped temples and households alike. Expect some close looks at objects and a few stories from villages that still care for these traditions.
As we explore, I'll point out the main types of evidence that let us recover women's roles. Inscriptions that name donors, bas-reliefs that depict everyday labor, textile collections in institutions like the National Museum of Cambodia, and oral histories from village workshops. Each source speaks differently. Together, they build a fuller picture.
For a long time, historians read the big stones and learned about kings. But when you widen your view, patronage looks like a network. Women show up as donors on temple inscriptions. Sometimes their names mark land gifts or the founding of a chapel. Those acts are legal, economic, and spiritual all at once.
The cultural significance is that investment by a woman, a queen or elite donor, reorganizes daily life around a shrine. It establishes offerings, supports temple staff, and reshapes ceremonial routes. Those decisions ripple through villages because temples were nodes of social and economic activity.
And the reliefs confirm it visually. In one outer gallery scene at Angkor Wat, you can see women balancing baskets, tending bundles. It's not decorative fluff. It suggests specialization. Certain families or groups managed cloth, water, or offerings. Those tasks supported the larger ritual calendar.
Let me contextualize with textiles. Weaving traditions preserve both technique and meaning. The National Museum of Cambodia's textile collections contain some pot patterns that closely match designs still woven in village workshops. Those continuities point to women as carriers of design language and ritual symbolism across generations.
Right. And here's a small scene I can't shake. Imagine a dim weaving hut, sunlight through a woven mat, the loom's steady clack. A woman lifts a shuttle, slides a thread into a pattern that echoes a temple lintel. You hear the taut thread snap into place and smell the drying dye. It's a physical memory passed hand to hand.
The evidence shows us those links matter for interpretation. When a motif repeats on a lintel and on a sampot, it's not coincidence, it's shared meaning. That helps us approach museum displays differently. Captions should reflect the living techniques behind objects, not present them as frozen artifacts.
I have to admit there's a temptation to make women only the noble keepers of tradition. I'm not sure I buy that uncritically.
Wait, do you mean the risk of sentimentalizing their role? Because power can be practical, messy, and embedded in everyday negotiation.
Exactly. For instance, I once watched a midwife in Persat arrange medicinal herbs, record debts with market vendors, and negotiate transport for a pregnant woman to the provincial clinic. That authority wasn't romantic. It was problem-solving and social capital in action.
That's an important vignette. The deeper story is how domestic authority, midwifery, household ritual, market leadership translates into community stability. These roles support population continuity, food storage systems, and dispute resolution. Their effects are structural.
Right, and that helps explain why women appear in inscriptions not only as donors, but as named ritual specialists or landholders in some cases. Those records are fragmentary, yes, but when combined with oral history, they form a compelling pattern.
From a preservation standpoint, this is where ethical practice comes in. Projects that consult weavers about display, or that invite village elders to annotate objects, return interpretive authority to communities. Naming women in captions and including oral testimony counters a history told only from monumental voices.
For listeners traveling or researching, simple actions matter. Ask guides about donors named on inscription panels. Look for women depicted doing practical tasks, and seek out weaving collectives or household shrines with permission. These are ways to notice the invisible scaffolding of heritage.
And beyond visiting, support community archives, amplify local scholars and artisans on platforms, and prioritize organizations that center local expertise, especially projects led by women. Sustainable preservation depends on local stewardship, not outside saviors.
Before we close, picture standing in a gallery and pausing at a tiny carved figure, maybe a woman balancing a jar. Ask yourself, who wove the cloth she's wearing? Who prepared the offering? Those small questions open a different history, one built from many hands, not just crowned heads.
The research tells us that when we retell Angkor with attention, the narrative becomes plural. Queens and commoners, patrons and artisans, ritual specialists and market women all appear in the same landscape. That's where culture lives, between stone and cloth, between inscription and song.
If this episode opened the door, keep the conversation going. Tag @AncientEchoesPod on Instagram with one photo of a textile or relief that surprised you. Share where you saw it and include a short note about what you noticed. Our team and I read those messages and often feature them on the show. Also check Samnang's YouTube channel for visual tours of weaving workshops and temple panels.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Ancient Echoes. We hope these stories helped you see Cambodian history and culture in a deeper, more human way. Thank you for listening.
The echoes of the past live on in people's voices, memories, and everyday lives. Thank you for listening and for making space for these stories. Let's unlock the echoes of history together.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight is way. Warm, sacred power, Swahili, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, Swahili. Oh, oh, oh.